Hello guys, how are we doing? Today I'm going to use two off-meta classes until I cost a game. To keep it fair, we're going to be using this class for the GPR, a 7 attachment class, so that is comparable to the Ames, and I feel like I can make a fair comparison. And for the compact, this is the class we're going to be using, so two great classes. And of course, in order to make it a properly fair comparison, I needed to make sure I warmed up properly. So I got into my standard bot lobby, played for 10 minutes, which gives me about 130 bots to shoot. And as you can see, the GPR was feeling good. Now, obviously, these are only recruit bots, but it was just a purpose of, making it. I would warm up with the Ames to let me see if I can warm up with the GPR to make it somewhat a fair, as I say, a fair comparison. Now, the compact was also a gun that I wanted to use when I wanted to use it, but I knew it was a little bit harder to use and a little bit less dynamic than the GPR, the Jackal, and the Ames because of its ability to shoot at long distances. Now, jumping into the first rank play game, you can see the GPR was not doing the damage it put out, but it wasn't doing bad at all. You can see just here how many times I was able to get some solid kills, and whilst I was probably able to get out more damage with the Ames, it was doing the job. I was able to sit on time, beam people at long range on headies, and somewhat do a decent job.
Man, there's gone fries.
It was, however, very inconsistent, as you can see right there. These sort of engagements where you're really close, it was perfect for, and when you're not in a really fair gunfight in which the enemy has a better position than you, you are likely to win most of these gunfights. You can see here a lot of the challenges I was taking on with both of these guns are when the enemy's not even shooting back. The compact ability to only, to kill people at insane pace made it a really nice gun to use at P5 on Rewind, for example, but other than that, it did have no other real strengths. The GPR was maneuverable and continued to be really adaptable in those close range engagements, but also had a fair balance at those longer ranges we're seeing here. The maneuverability and the way the GPR is able to handle, enable side cancelling and aiming in and out really nice, enabling me to get some really quick 3 pieces that I probably wouldn't have been able to obtain using the Ames and potentially the Jackal, to be fair, at these certain ranges. The one benefit the GPR does have over the Ames, as we've already sort of said, is the maneuverability, and it's the way it can, dip in and out of just, difficult situations and come out with a dub. So now let's break down a Rewind hardpoint gameplay where we are using both the compact and the GPR. Now, I'm going to be talking through a couple of strengths and weaknesses both of the guns have and when you should use them, when you should probably not use them, and give you an idea of how you can maneuver around the map, because I think this gameplay is pretty good. I don't quite get a 2KD, but we get 37 kills and 20 deaths or something like that, so it's solid considering the fact we are using non-meta weapons. So let's quickly talk about the GPR. The GPR's recently had a buff where the headshot damage multiplier is increased, and that's really where it shines. The Ames at most ranges absolutely dominate the GPR when it comes to time to kill. The headshot multiplier does even out that playground a little bit, making it so that if you hit your headshots with the GPR, especially at those longer ranges, you're likely to get the kill relatively quickly, which is sort of what we saw there pretty much. Now, the benefit to using the GPR over the Ames is its mobility and handling, which is sort of what we've touched on already today. It aims in quicker, it slide cancels quicker, it comes out of a sprint to slide, and the sprint to slide time is a lot quicker, making it so that if you were to come across an unbeknown enemy who has an Ames and you both enter the gunfight sprinting and you have to come out of sprint, whatever it is, ADS, and then shoot, you're probably on an even playing ground with the Ames, because the Ames time to kill is a little bit quicker, but the mobility and handling with the GPR is obviously quicker to, counteract it. Now, it was still very difficult to play. You couldn't challenge an Ames knowing it had a heady and you had a heady and rely on your gunny to win. You were simply, most of the time, going to lose that gunfight when it comes to just pure time to kill. And when you're playing in competitive lobbies like I am here, where I'm playing in Crimson, I think I'm Crim 2 at this point, you need all the help you can get to make sure you're winning those gunfights. There's a lot of gunfights, which I've already, as I say, touched on today, that I'm winning because I've either got the first shot off, they're already weak, I know where they are, they don't know where I am, and the gunfight's favoured heavily in my direction. Now, the compact, on the other hand, is a demon. Okay, it's very quick time to kill. It's the fastest killing gun in ranked play, meaning that when you're already ADS'd and it's a 50-50 gunfight and you can hit all your shots, the compact is going to be the gun you're going to want to use. However, The range drop-off is substantial. It doesn't take long for the Jackals, or even the Ames' time to kill to become quicker than the compact. And it's only got a quick time to kill when you hit your shots. Now, one of the massive weaknesses with the compact is its inability to have low recoil patterns. Okay, the recoil on the compact is quite extreme. It's quite unpredictable, and that's why I mentioned earlier on, you're probably only going to want to use it when you're in an environment such as P5 on Rewind. We've got here that where you don't have too many head glitches you have to contest, and it's really close range engagements. That's what it's for. That's really what this gun, the compact, that's the area it thrives in. Other examples of that are just any hill that's in a room. So, for example, P4 on Vault is probably a good one where it's in the room. You could probably argue P3 or P2 on Skyline is probably quite good. Anywhere that's in a room where you don't have too many head glitches to try and beam people off of, you're probably going to want to use the compact. That's really where it shines. Now, that makes its usability quite limited. That mixed with the fact that the handling and mobility is substantially slower than that of the Jackal makes it the non-meta sub. That's why the recoil pattern mixed with the low handling ability makes the Jackal the no-brainer choice when using the submachine gun. Now, the Jackal's time to kill isn't that much slower than the compact, and most definitely if you got caught sprinting with both the compact and the Jackal, you're going to come out with a Jackal dub most of the time, just because of how quickly it can, maneuverability and handling, as I said. So yeah, how should you play with them? I think the GPR is pretty good. You want to be really smart with your positioning with the GPR. You've got to play exceptionally different to how you would with the Ames. You can see here I'm taking slight off angles, and on P3 on Rewind, you really want to make it so that you're already you're sort of predicting the enemy. Now, if you're the sort of player who's coming from a sub and you want to try and get into the AR, I think the GPR is probably the weapon for you, because it's got that good mixture of handling, yet it can beam at long range if you hit your shots. So you're not going to get caught sprinting as much as you would have with the Ames if you're going from the sub to the AR. But there's a reason why both the compact and the GPR are the non-meta weapons. It's because they're worse. Okay, no, the pros aren't using them. Top level players, when they really want to lock in, they use the Ames and the Jackal over the GPR and the compact. But as I say, they're usable enough to that if you want to try and try something different, I guess, and not use the Ames and Jackal that we've been using since October or November, whenever the game came out, then it's probably still viable to use. Unfortunately, the C9's gone. The rest of the meta has disappeared. So yeah, I think the GPR is probably more usable than the compact, but as I say, if you're very picky with where you use your compact, you're probably absolutely going to be fine. A gunfight like that, for example, I'd have probably won with the Ames. So there's definitely less forgivability with the use of these non-meta classes. But give it a go. The classes at the beginning, so feel free to rewind and pause it if you want to check out what the classes were. Give it a go, and let's see how the rest of this game plays out. I'm going to be here still, don't worry. So you can see here how much you have to sort of stay in the mix of the compact. Already ADSing does help the situation, although because that player laid down, I completely whiffed. I have to really pull down on the recoil. And I think, to be fair, part of it comes down to not using the gun much. You're not used to the gun. You're not used to the recoil patterns, which naturally makes it harder that when you suddenly switch from guns that are relatively easy to control the recoil of, like the Ames and the Jackal, moving to something like the compact makes it even more challenging to use. So I think if I was to do this test really fairly, I'd probably give myself a week to play with the compact, so that I know exactly how to control the recoil pattern properly, and I'm really used to how it handles in the hands of my player here. And I think that's probably the fairest way I could probably test it, but we don't have time to talk that much SR. So, summary. So when it comes to it, if you want to win your games and you want to win your gunfights, you're just going to want to stick to the standard meta, which I know is boring, but hey, that's how to get the most dubs. So yeah, stick with the Ames, stick with the Jackal. Mate. Yeah, this gun feels insane after using the GPR for a bit.